It is the year 1633, and Galileo stands in a courtroom, awaiting his fate. Galileo was ordered to stand trial on suspicion of heresy. The air is heavy, filled with silence, tension, and unseen authority pressing down. You can feel the weight of the room as if it is alive. This is not justice as you know it. This is something far more dangerous. This is the moment where truth is forced to stand before power. Rome is no ordinary city. It is the center of power and fear. You walk through its streets and feel centuries of authority watching you. Galileo Galilei stands in this world as both a thinker and a threat. He once believed observation could reveal the true laws of the universe. But truth is dangerous when it challenges the foundations of control. Imagine looking into the sky and seeing something forbidden. Moons orbiting Jupiter, proving not everything revolves around the Earth. Each discovery quietly dismantles the belief system of an entire world. It is the year 1610, and with every observation, Galileo steps closer to this moment. At first, his work is admired by scholars and influential patrons. His ideas spread carefully, sparking curiosity and quiet debate. But admiration quickly turns into suspicion when authority feels threatened. Because institutions built on certainty cannot tolerate contradiction. Warnings begin to follow him, subtle at first, then more direct. Friends urge him to be cautious, to soften his claims carefully. But Galileo refuses to silence what he knows to be true, and that decision leads him directly toward his judgment. A summons arrives, commanding him to appear before the Inquisition. There is no choice, no negotiation, only obedience to authority. You know that when Rome calls, you do not refuse. You simply walk forward into whatever awaits you.
Now you stand inside the courtroom, surrounded by silence and judgment. The judges observe him carefully, measuring every word and every breath. Their authority is absolute, and their purpose is already decided. This is not a search for truth. This is a defense of power. The accusation is read aloud, sharp and final in tone. Galileo is charged with spreading ideas that contradict sacred doctrine. His work is described as dangerous, unacceptable, and deeply threatening. But truth does not become false simply because it is condemned. He is asked a simple question, yet it carries devastating consequences. Does the earth move around the sun as he has claimed? You feel the weight of that question pressing into everything, because the answer will decide more than just his fate. Galileo answers carefully, explaining his observations with measured precision. He speaks of moons, planets, and patterns that cannot be ignored. Some judges listen, others remain unmoved by reason or evidence, because logic cannot override authority in a room like this. Documents are presented, reminding him of earlier warnings and restrictions. He was forbidden from teaching or defending these ideas publicly, and now that warning becomes the weapon used against him. His knowledge is no longer seen as discovery, but as defiance. You begin to see how easily truth becomes a crime here, not because it is wrong, but because it is inconvenient. And in this system, inconvenience is something that cannot survive.
Silence grows heavier, pressing down like an invisible force. The tribunal does not rush because time itself is their tool. They know that pressure eventually breaks even the strongest mind. And now, that pressure is closing in on Galileo. He is reminded of obedience, of duty, of submission to authority. Defiance is not courage here, it is a punishable act. And punishment is always waiting for those who refuse to yield. You can feel the room shifting, the tension tightening with each moment. Every word spoken is another step closer to breaking something inside. Not through force, but through endurance and psychological pressure. Galileo begins to falter, not in truth, but in resistance, because even the strongest conviction can weaken under constant pressure, and the system knows exactly how to apply that pressure. You understand now, standing here in silence beside him. This is the moment where everything begins to collapse.
A document is placed before him, waiting for a decision. One signature will determine everything from this point forward. Refuse and face consequences no one can easily survive. Accept and live, but lose everything he once believed in. You look at the page and feel the weight of that choice. Every word represents surrender, silence, and the loss of identity. And yet, it is the only path left to continue living. Galileo stares at the document, his hand trembling slightly. Inside him, a battle unfolds between truth and survival, between what is right and what is necessary to endure. And then, slowly, the decision is made. The pen touches the paper, and silence becomes absolute. In that moment, truth is forced into submission, but not destroyed. It remains, hidden beneath layers of forced compliance. He reads his confession aloud, each word carrying quiet defeat. The tribunal accepts it as victory, as proof of control. But what they cannot see is what remains beneath the surface, because truth, once discovered, cannot be fully erased.
Now you stand far from that courtroom, but the story continues. Galileo lives, but his life is no longer his own. Confined, watched, and controlled, yet still thinking and still creating. Even in isolation, his mind refuses to surrender to silence. Ideas continue to grow, spread, and move beyond his reach. Because truth does not require permission to exist. His discoveries begin spreading across Europe, slowly but steadily. Other thinkers confirm what he once risked everything to reveal. And the world begins to change its understanding of reality. The system that tried to silence him begins to weaken. Not through force, but through undeniable evidence and time. Because reality cannot be controlled forever by authority alone. Years later, Galileo dies, far from the courtroom that judged him. But his ideas survive, shaping the future long after his death, and the universe he revealed becomes the foundation of modern science. You realize now, this was never just his story. It was about truth, courage, and the cost of both. And the quiet strength of ideas that refuse to die. And somewhere in the silence of history, one idea remains. And yet, it moves.
Power can silence a voice, but it cannot stop the movement of truth. Galileo's story reminds us that knowledge often comes at a painful cost. Those who challenge authority rarely escape without sacrifice or consequence. As your time travel guide, I will see you in the next chapter of history. But remember, even in silence, the universe is always speaking.